Well, I admit that I thought morning glory seeds were bullshit too, until a few days ago. Let me tell you that this couldn't be further from the truth. Here's my testimonial. I had tried morning glory seeds a few times before, but had pretty much no effects. The first time I tried, I soaked about 50 seeds crushed with a hammer in water for a few hours and drank the water. 0. A few years passed, and I came across the FAQ at hyperreal.com. Erowid note. http://www.erowid.org/plants/morning_glory/. This time I followed the FAQ for the most part, but used naphtha as a solvent and only let the powder soak in alcohol overnight. Again, 0. This was with various brands of heavenly blue seeds. I had little intention of trying again, until I found myself next to the seed rack in a totally unattended agway. Well, I just helped myself to about 20 packages of Heavenly Blues, Agway brand value pack, about 80 seeds per. This time I used a pepper grinder to finely crush 3 packages of seeds, about 240 total. I read a testimonial somewhere about getting strong effects from soaking the powder in water and then drinking the water powder mixture. Well, this is what I did, and went out to get some fast food as my stomach was totally empty and I thought this might temper the nausea that has been reported. As I stood in line at McDonald's, everything started to sound kind of strange, far away and removed somehow. I thought I was just imagining this at the time. Soon I started to feel really queasy, and needed to sit down. I started to feel definite effects, as everything in my field of vision started to wander around of its own accord. I thought it was best to get home fast, as only 30 minutes had passed and the effects are supposed to peak a couple of hours later. I drove home carefully, and started to feel really sick. In retrospect, I wish I'd just thrown it all up, as the next 10 hours were pretty much a living hell. Lights got really bright and annoying, and I hated to look at them for some reason. My vision was all screwed up by the time I got home, with everything disintegrating and wandering around in my field of vision uncontrollably. I got very upset that I couldn't see things for what they were, no matter how I tried. The harder I tried to look at something and see it clearly, the crazier it would get, with bright colored patterns wandering all over and obscuring my view of things. This phase lasted another half hour, and then it got worse. It felt like I couldn't catch my breath, and I felt totally panicked. The more I tried to calm down, the more helpless I felt at controlling my out-of-control emotional state. It was about 1 a.m. by this time, and going to sleep was out of the question. My mind was racing and spinning with panic. Closing my eyes revealed very bizarre patterns that seemed to all have a distinct center at the center of my field of view, with the patterns all being somehow geometric patterns projected on strange strips that extended out to infinity. It was not pleasant in any way, shape, or form. My only thought was that I would somehow make it through this experience. By about 2 a.m. I was throwing up, which again was extremely unpleasant. My sense of self was so screwed up that I worried about my internal organs. Either they were destroyed somehow by the drug and I was going to die. I could feel motion inside my body cavity, which was probably my stomach heaving, that felt totally unnatural. I couldn't figure out how a drug could cause your organs to get all mixed up inside you, but I was sure that that's what had happened. Between sessions of puking I would stare into the mirror, and my pupils were huge. There was very little color visible around the edges of my eyes. I looked absolutely insane to myself, and that scared the shit out of me. I never thought I could look like such a lunatic. I tried playing music to get a grip on reality, but this didn't help much either, as little pieces of any song would become stuck in my head playing over and over and over uncontrollably. This lasted until I finally fell asleep very early the next morning, after the panic had subsided somewhat and I was totally exhausted physically and emotionally. Well, obviously I had a really bad trip, and you couldn't pay me enough to ever try it again. But those seeds definitely work, and can really kick your ass if you're not careful. From my experience, I cannot recommend their use. It was probably the single most unpleasant experience of my life. 10 hours of intense panic, imagined suffocation, seemingly endless, painful hurling accompanied by crazy delusions that you are going to die and that your organs went through a blender are not my idea of a good time. But hey, to each his own smiley face. A good beer and a relaxing smoke are about as adventurous as I'm going to be with drugs from now on.